Most men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s wake up a little more tired than they used to, chalk it up to age, pour their coffee, and get on with the day. It feels completely normal. It feels like something everyone just quietly accepts as they get older. But what specialists in men's health are seeing in their clinics tells a very different story, because that creeping fatigue, that harder time building muscle, that shorter fuse and lower drive may not simply be getting older at all. It may be a measurable, addressable hormonal shift happening in your body right now. And here is the part that surprises most men the moment they hear it. According to Mayo Clinic, testosterone levels typically decline by about 1% a year starting in your 30s or 40s. And research shows that low testosterone affects an estimated 10 to 40% of adult men, depending on age and health status. That means millions of men are walking around with symptoms they've simply accepted as inevitable, without ever realizing there's real, evidence-based action they can take. Stay with me, because what I'm about to walk you through could change your energy, your strength, and how you feel in your own body starting this week. I'm going to give you the complete doctor-level guide to raising testosterone naturally, without guesswork, without gimmicks, and without a single fabricated shortcut. Let's start with why this matters so much, because I know some of you are thinking, I feel fine, this doesn't apply to me. Here's the problem. Declining testosterone rarely shows up as one dramatic symptom. It shows up as a slow accumulation of small, easy-to-dismiss changes. Picture this. You used to knock out a solid workout and feel energized for the rest of the day. Now you finish and just feel drained. You used to fall asleep easily and wake up rested. Now you're tossing and turning or waking up groggy no matter how many hours you got. You've noticed it's harder to keep the muscle you used to build without much effort, and a little easier to gain weight around the middle even though your diet hasn't changed much. None of these things on their own feel alarming. They feel like just getting older. But here's what most people never realize. Testosterone plays a central role in muscle maintenance, fat distribution, mood regulation, sleep quality, and drive, which means when it declines, it rarely announces itself with one clear signal. Instead, it shows up as this quiet accumulation of off feelings that are incredibly easy to write off individually. According to research published in reproductive and men's health journals, factors like smoking, excess body fat, poor sleep, and low physical activity are directly associated with lower testosterone levels, meaning a meaningful portion of what men chalk up to just aging is actually tied to specific modifiable habits. That's the empowering part hiding inside this conversation, even though it starts with something uncomfortable to hear. But this is only the beginning. What comes next is exactly what the research says works. And just as importantly, what doesn't. Let's talk about the first and most well-supported strategy because it consistently shows the strongest results across the research: resistance training. According to research referenced by major health institutions, particularly studies looking at strength exercise frequency, men who engage in regular resistance training have a significantly lower prevalence of low testosterone compared to sedentary men, even after adjusting for age and body composition. Here's what most people never realize. It's not just about building visible muscle. Resistance training appears to directly influence the hormonal signaling pathways involved in testosterone production, particularly when the training involves large muscle groups like the legs, back, and chest through compound movements such as squats, deadlifts, and presses. Picture a man in his 50s who used to lift regularly in his 20s, gradually let it fall away over the years as life got busier, and has spent the last decade doing mostly walking or light cardio. That gradual shift away from resistance work is incredibly common, and research suggests it may be quietly contributing to the exact symptoms he's been chalking up to age. The second pillar, and one that doesn't get nearly enough attention, is sleep. Medical experts have consistently pointed to a strong connection between sleep quality, particularly the amount of deep and REM sleep a man gets, and healthy testosterone production because the majority of daily testosterone release happens during sleep. Research has also linked conditions like sleep apnea, which becomes more common with age and weight gain, to significantly lower testosterone levels. Here's where the real danger begins for a lot of men. Poor sleep and low testosterone can become a self-reinforcing cycle, because low testosterone itself can worsen sleep quality, which then further suppresses testosterone production. But wait, because the next few strategies are ones almost nobody thinks to connect to this conversation at all, and they might matter just as much as the first two. The third pillar is body composition, specifically reducing excess body fat, particularly around the abdomen. Here's the mechanism worth understanding. Fat tissue, especially visceral fat around the midsection, contains an enzyme called aromatase that converts testosterone into estrogen. The more excess fat a man carries, especially around the waist, the more this conversion process can work against him, which is part of why research consistently shows an inverse relationship between waist circumference and testosterone levels. Picture a man who's gradually gained 15 or 20 pounds over the last several years, mostly around his midsection, without ever connecting that slow, steady weight gain to the fatigue and lower drive he's also been noticing. That connection is one of the most well-documented and most overlooked relationships in men's hormonal health. The fourth pillar is alcohol moderation. Research has consistently associated regular, heavier alcohol consumption with reduced testosterone production, partly because alcohol can directly impair the testicular cells responsible for producing it, and partly because of alcohol's broader effects on sleep and liver function, both of which play supporting roles in healthy hormone regulation. If you're watching this and you realize you've been having more than a drink or two most nights without thinking much of it, I want you to write the number 1 in the comments below. You would be surprised how many men share this exact habit, because a nightly drink to unwind has become such a normalized part of so many routines that it rarely gets questioned. The fifth pillar, and one that ties everything else together, is chronic stress management. When cortisol, your primary stress hormone, stays elevated for extended periods, it can directly suppress the hormonal signaling pathway responsible for testosterone production, because your body prioritizes short-term stress response over long-term functions like reproduction and muscle maintenance. But this is only half the picture. What comes next is exactly how these pillars translate into a real, practical daily approach. Now let's talk about specific, practical nutrition, because I promised you a complete guide, not just a list of concepts. Research has consistently linked adequate vitamin D levels to healthier testosterone levels, and given that a significant portion of adult men are estimated to have insufficient vitamin D, particularly in northern climates or in those who spend most of their time indoors, this is one of the most common and correctable gaps. 15 to 20 minutes of midday sun exposure several times a week, or a vitamin D supplement guided by blood work, is a simple, evidence-supported starting point. Zinc is another nutrient worth understanding because it plays a direct role in testosterone production, and deficiency has been associated with lower testosterone levels in research. Foods like lean meats, shellfish, legumes, and pumpkin seeds are practical sources. Picture a man skipping breakfast most mornings, grabbing a coffee, and running out the door, unintentionally undereating protein and key micronutrients for the first half of his day without ever realizing that pattern could be working against his hormonal health. Adequate overall protein intake alongside healthy fats from sources like olive oil, nuts, and fatty fish also supports the raw materials your body needs for hormone production, since testosterone itself is synthesized from cholesterol. This does not mean chasing extreme diets or eliminating entire food groups. In fact, research has shown that very low-fat diets can actually reduce testosterone levels, which is exactly why balance matters more than restriction in this specific context. Beyond nutrition, minimizing exposure to endocrine-disrupting chemicals found in certain plastics, particularly BPA, is worth practical attention, since research referenced by major health institutions has linked these compounds to hormonal disruption. Simple swaps, like using glass or stainless steel containers instead of reheating food in plastic, are small, low-effort ways to reduce this exposure over time. Let's talk honestly about what doesn't work, because a complete guide has to include this, and frankly, most content on this topic skips it entirely. The supplement industry has built an enormous market around testosterone boosters, and I want to be direct with you here. Medical experts have consistently found that the vast majority of over-the-counter testosterone supplements lack strong, consistent clinical evidence for meaningfully raising testosterone in men with normal range levels. Some ingredients, like vitamin D or zinc in men who are genuinely deficient, have real supporting research, which is exactly why we covered them separately. But many popular proprietary blends marketed aggressively online simply don't hold up under rigorous study, and relying on them instead of the fundamentals we've already covered: sleep, resistance training, body composition, alcohol moderation, and stress management, is one of the most common mistakes men make when trying to address this. Picture a man ordering a flashy supplement bottle online after seeing an advertisement, taking it faithfully for a month, seeing no real change, and giving up on the entire idea of improving his testosterone naturally, when the actual evidence-based levers were never the ones he pulled in the first place. If you genuinely suspect low testosterone based on persistent fatigue, low drive, mood changes, or difficulty maintaining muscle, the right first step, according to medical experts, is a simple blood test through your doctor, ideally done in the morning when levels are naturally highest, rather than guessing based on symptoms alone or relying on supplements without a diagnosis. This is exactly the kind of grounded, honest guidance I wanted this video to give you, instead of another version of the same recycled, unproven advice. If you've made it this far, I want you to know something important. You now understand 5 research-backed pillars for supporting healthy testosterone naturally: resistance training, sleep quality, body composition, alcohol moderation, and stress management, alongside the specific nutritional pieces that support them. And just as importantly, you understand which shortcuts genuinely aren't worth your money or your time. That knowledge is not meant to overwhelm you. It's meant to hand you back a sense of control in an area of health that so many men quietly struggle with in silence, assuming it's simply an inevitable part of aging they have no say in. I share information like this because I genuinely want you to walk away feeling equipped with a real plan, not another confusing list of contradictory advice. Start with one pillar this week, whether that's finally getting back into the gym for real resistance work, prioritizing 7 to 8 hours of consistent sleep, or having an honest conversation with your doctor about blood work. Every small, consistent change compounds over months in ways that matter far more than any single supplement ever could. If this video helped you today, share it with a friend or family member who might need to hear it. And if you want more honest, evidence-based guidance like this, stay with us. We'll be here, walking through it with you, one video at a time.